Yeah, what's cracking, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Prison Break Raw. I'm your host, the one and only Big JD. Go ahead, get this channel, subscribe, share, leave some messages or comments, hit that thumbs up for the like, notification bell to be informed on all episodes when they drop. Most importantly, if you enjoy this content, please feel free to share it. Sharing is caring. Share it to your family, your friends, your coworkers, anywhere and everywhere in your social media platforms. Let's get this raw and uncut material out there to the millions that don't know we are here. About 10 months ago, I dropped a video called Ghost Stories from Prison. It basically entailed a bunch of historical stories and information that is put out there on a Google search. I mean, anybody can find it. All this information that's out there about people that were on death row, about the Eastern Penitentiary in Pennsylvania that's considered to be one of the most haunted prisons in the world, Alcatraz, the Ohio Reformatory, the Charleston City Jail, all these different places, and even a couple of low-key experiences that I shared myself. I left a lot of it out to see if the video would even be popular, if it was something that my viewers were really interested in hearing about, and it seems that many of you are, and you want to hear more about these prison ghost stories, and do I believe in them? Well, let me just tell you about what I believe ghosts to be, what they could possibly be. Nobody really knows for sure what they are, but it is quite possible that since Einstein and many other physicists and scientists around the world through the times have basically determined that time is an illusion itself. So this fabric of time that we're riding a wave on is kind of like an illusion. It's not really happening, but it is happening. And there's an equation that breaks it all down. But if you could tear through this wave of time, you will actually descend or ascend into many different time frames. It's like time travel, I guess you can call it, whatnot, this and that. And every now and then, if this illusion of time is moving forward, then there's probably several other bands or waves of time that may overlap and cross over and this and that. And those are actual realities of themselves where someone else is riding in a different, I guess you could say, dimension or another reality of life. It is quite possible, and nothing's off the table, that at this moment in time, I'm recording this video for all of you in this time frame, in this reality, in this current reality or illusion of reality that we are looking at right now. This optical time frame setting of what is going on in this video. Now, there could be 50,000 other realities of me making a video, and it might be in a different language. I might look like a totally different person. I might be the same person. It might be something totally different. But it's happening simultaneously. It's very possible that these ghosts, right? Since basically our body, our physical body is made up of a bunch of water, minerals, and chemicals and everything like that breaks down when we die and it returns to dust. But what about the soul? What about the spirit that really fuels us, that makes us who we are, our personality and everything like that? You could say it's learned, but it's a lot of other things, a lot of other components that are involved. The energy, for example. It's like you send a radio wave out into space. You could warp yourself across in a ship all the way to the other end and then receive the message 100 years later, and it could sound exactly the same. How does this happen? Nobody really knows for sure. All of these things are theories. So what could a ghost possibly be? It could be a residue of a past life. It could be actually that your soul really is its own sentient being, separate from your body, and it has its own function, has its own reality and everything like that. And it might have been able to figure out a way to hold on to this physical world, but not really be present to the naked eye. Maybe it might be seen in some circumstances, but this being itself may be able to have figured out a way to stick around. Who knows? So I don't really know what a ghost is. I don't really know why it's here or what it is, but I do believe that there is some kind of a paranormal activity that surrounds all of us in our lives. There are so many things that we cannot answer. There's so many things that not only can science not answer, but religion can't answer it either. Everybody is just speculating. So let me go ahead and do a little bit of speculating myself and say, for example, for a second there, that ghosts are real. I've had several experiences where things that have happened that I just don't understand. I've had things in the background of my videos of people looking out in my window. People have pointed out to me faces in the pictures in the background that I used to have, green mist or green smoke that people have seen that wasn't in the video itself. All these things that have gone on that cannot be explained. I can't explain them either. I'm going to share with you an experience, a ghost story experience in prison. To this very day is changed the whole way I see everything in the world. Because I can't explain what happened. You could say whatever you want. You could say it was going through like opium withdrawals. You could say that it was all the stress and everything caving in on you. I was possibly looking at about 20 years for a bank robbery. I was in the Grady County Law Enforcement Center, or the Grady County Jail in Oklahoma, Chickasha, Oklahoma, awaiting trial for my bank robbery. This was back in 2012. Now, this jail was constructed back in 1934, so it's almost 100 years old. About another 14 years, it will be 100 years old. It'll celebrate its 100th year, but they're probably going to shut it down because it is just so fucked up and decrepit and nasty. I mean, these cells are solid metal all the way around. It's like living in a drum. It's like living in a metal box. Literally, all walls, the floor, the ceiling, everything is metal. You could bang on it, boom, 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 and it sounds like you're in a drum. The lights flicker on and off. The place is nasty as fuck. It's all painted. The floor is painted. Everything's painted exactly the same, like a beige, like a nasty beige color. There is a cell, one cell, that is in this row, and there's about 16 cells that are in each pod in the Federal Holding Center of the Grady County Jail. There's this one cell that's at the very end on the bottom. It's a little bit bigger than the other cells. I don't know if it was meant to be like an ADA cell, like a disability cell, or what it is, but it's a little bit bigger. And it's the only cell that has a concrete wall on one side that separates where the showers are behind it. And it's under the stairs, ironically, of all places that it could be located. It sits almost completely under the stairs that goes upstairs to the second tier. I was in this cell, and I was in this cell by myself. And you have what's called a bean chute. You know what a bean chute? It's a tray slot, and it's where they feed you your food. Although they didn't use them in this jail, everybody went out to the day room and grabbed their food through the tray slot or bean chute that was on the door that exited out of the unit itself, the pod. So these bean chutes were all like, you can open them easily. They weren't really locked. You could just tap them and open them, and they opened right up. Well, one particular incident that I was having, I was sitting in my cell, and I was trying to go to sleep, and I started to go to sleep, and this bean chute opened up on its own. I just heard it drop, plong, and there was nobody outside. So I was getting up to go close this bean chute, and lo and behold, the craziest thing that ever happened, and I screamed, man, because it was creepy as fuck. There was a head sticking through the bean chute looking at me. I'm not even bullshitting you. There was a fucking head that was sticking through the bean chute looking at me. Now, for a second there, I had to grab my glasses and put my glasses on and try to look. And then when I did, it was gone. I cannot explain that to this day. But there was always things happening in this cell. Like things would just fall down for no reason at all. The toilet would flush on its own. I would always hear banging and bumping around in the back where the toilet hooked up to the metal wall that was, and in between there was like a walkway back there. There was a little window you could look out, and you could see beyond there was another wall were the other windows that you could see out to the street, but you couldn't really see nothing through them because those windows were so dirty that all you could see was the light. And you knew whether it was daytime or it was nighttime because it would be lit up or it wouldn't be lit up. So I'd always hear bumping and banging around in the back. I'd always hear like whispers of voices that I couldn't understand. But the one thing that used to always get to me is I would be sleeping and I would hear like a hey or something yell like right into my ear and it would wake me up. And it used to happen all the time around the same time at night, sometime around like a little bit after 1 o'clock in the morning. And I started to know what time it was because when this kept happening, I finally pushed the button and asked the deputy that was in the bubble, what time is it? You know, and it was a little bit after 1:30, and it used to happen at the same time every night. And it got so bad that I was having all these weird nightmares and all these weird dreams, and I started to actually get up and sleepwalk around the cell. And I did something that was bizarre one night. I took my pencils and I started writing all kinds of shit all over the walls. We're talking like a measuring scale, all this different, I don't know what it was, fucking hieroglyphics or what it was, but all kinds of weird shit all over the walls in this cell. And I woke up in the morning and I saw it, the lights were on. I woke up in the morning and I seen it and I was like thrown back like, what the fuck is all that? I don't even remember doing this to this very day. You could call it temporary psychosis. You could call it coming down off of like opiates and everything, like I said. You could call it temporary insanity. I don't know what the fuck it was. But to this day, I cannot explain what happened. And it was so bad. It was so bad, right? That nobody would even go into this cell. Nobody would go into this cell. Like you would have like there was, the whole unit was nothing but paisas, right? And anytime like a new paisa would come in, he would sit there and he'd stop and he'd look around and he would say something. He would say something in Spanish like, hell no, basically. And he was out of that cell. I had one guy that sat out in the day room and refused to come in and lock it up in there. You know, and I'm trying to explain to his people like, hey, man, I didn't say nothing to him. I didn't do nothing to him. And it's like the paisa that was in charge like, no, your cell is no bueno. Your cell is no bueno. And I'm like, what do you mean? You know, it's just like straight Diablo and all that stuff is just evil. Your cell is evil. Nobody wants to go in there, you know? And I'm just like, well, fuck, I'm trapped in there and I couldn't move out. Anytime I tried to move out of this cell, something would come up to where I couldn't move out of there. You know what I'm saying? Like either they would forget that the move went in there, tell me, oh yeah, we're going to move you. I mean, I would clog up the toilet just to get out of there, and the toilet would just, it would be clogged. And when they would come in and look at it, it would be unclogged. I don't know how to explain it. Water would turn on. I'd hear all kinds of shit. And I remember one of the maintenance dudes was telling me, oh, you're in that one cell. What cell is that? Well, some guy tried to escape because, like I said, it was really easy. For some reason, there was like rust, decay. I guess you can call it that metal cancer that eats away metal. And it was like pulled back, but there was all this like new like shit that was welded on there that covered it up. Somebody tried to escape out of this cell one time and pulled that whole sink off and climbed into the back. But when he got back there, he got stuck and he got electrocuted and died back there trying to get out. Another guy got beaten to death in that cell, and another guy killed himself in the same cell. Right? So there's a lot of nasty energy that was going on in the cell, but all that writing on the wall. And I wish I could have taken pictures of it. We had staff came in there and looked at it and was like, wow, man, what the fuck happened in here? They tried to paint over it. It wouldn't paint over. You know what I'm saying? It would kind of bleed through the paint. And I guess they finally figured out how to get it all off. But they had the preacher man, Bibles and study materials that used to come through there all the time, and they brought him into that room. The dude was starting to sweat. He said, I have to get out of here. I have to get out of here. He would bypass the whole unit because they'd pop open the tray slot and you could just hear him in the morning, preacher man, Bibles and study materials. And he stopped coming around for a little while, you know? And People would always ask me, like, what the fuck is up with you? And people would, like, stay away from me, wouldn't talk to me and shit, thought that I was some kind of a demon. I don't know what it was, but there was always something weird going on in there, and I had some of the most bizarre nightmares that you could imagine, and there were times where I wouldn't even eat. Like, it would be catatonic in there. And I started getting into the Bible, and I started reading the Bible, and I started trying to pray and all that stuff like that, but nothing worked, man. Nothing worked to get this nasty energy that was out of this cell. And I was just stuck in there until I ended up going to MDC Los Angeles for an evaluation regarding my case, because they wanted to know why I went in there and robbed the bank, and they wanted to know what my state of mind was, and everything that I was going through with this cell was crazy. But when I finally got to MDC Los Angeles and got away from this cell, that is when all these different kind of spiritual things started like opening up in my mind, things that I didn't understand quite as much before I started to understand. And when I was done with this evaluation, I went back to the Grady County Jail and requested to go back to this unit and requested to be put back into that cell. But there was somebody else living in there. And he was doing everything in his power to get out of there until finally they sent him off to federal prison, and he couldn't get out of that fucking cell fast enough. So I had myself moved back into that cell. You could call me crazy, whatever, but it just felt more normal for me, I guess you could say. I'm not really scared of that kind of stuff, although a lot of people are, but I just felt a great sense of peace in there. I know it probably doesn't make any sense, but when this started to happen, when I started to like feel a sense of peace and everything, ironically, nothing ever happened again. But I started to get a lot more history about that cell and what went on in there, especially in the vicinity of that cell. Like I said, this jail had been around since 1934. So with a jail that old, like I said, obviously there's going to be some weird energy surrounding it. But some other interesting points about Chickasha, Oklahoma, the location for this Grady County Jail itself. Grady County is notorious for having many, many forgotten and lost cemeteries all over that county. I mean, there's actually a website that has discovered some of them that have been long forgotten about. Not only that, but it was the location for a very large, I think it was an Apache reservation that was in Chickasha or Grady County in itself. What's to say that county jail wasn't built on some kind of a cemetery? I don't mean to sound like the poltergeist, but what's to say that it wasn't built on a Native American burial ground? It wasn't uncommon, especially Oklahoma, because if you know the history of Oklahoma and how much bloodshed, how much scandalous shit has gone on in this state in order to make it what it was. I mean, even the name Sooners. If you know anything about the name Sooners, it's because when they finally made Oklahoma a state, there was supposed to be a certain time, a certain day where everybody can go out and grab up as much land as they can get and stake a claim on it as their own. Well, you had a bunch of people that left sooner than everybody else to grab this land, and they did it through a scandalous way, so they were called the Sooners. And that's where the name the Sooners came from, because they left sooner than everybody else to grab up the land. And there's a lot of shit that went on, a lot of death, a lot of bad things. There is considered to be a lot of very strange, unexplainable energy that surrounds pretty much most of this whole state. It's very old, and there's a lot of old stuff all around. And there's a lot of history around the state, especially with mobsters and gangsters, even Bonnie and Clyde, Pretty Boy Floyd, all kinds of stuff. Yeah, it's got a very notorious, basically a lot of running and gunning and shooting and killing type of a history. So who knows, right? But it's just strange about that. I mean, even the house that I live in right now, this house is over 100 years old. And like I said, I've had people said that they've seen things in the background. I'm going to be bringing a dude on my show at some point in time that used to live in this house for like 5 years. And somebody's been murdered on the front porch. Somebody was murdered in my back bedroom over here. Somebody hung themselves in this office. And not only that, but the old man that used to live here, like I said, he said that he used to hear like an old couple like singing and playing a piano in the front living room. Apparently there was an old couple that died together in here. And they used to play a piano almost like freaking Archie Bunker. But yeah, that's what it is, man. That's like one of the craziest stories that I could give you regarding ghost stories. And I don't like to tell it a lot because people think I'm crazy. But this shit really happened. You know, there was writing all over the walls. To this day, I don't know what kind of language that I wrote in. But I do remember what some of the symbols look like. And I've tried to look them up over the years and couldn't find them. But yeah, man, it's just like these days now, I have more of a sharper sense for these kind of things. And I really can't explain to you what they are. But what I do know is that this stuff is real as far as reality can go, because then again, what's really real? If, of course, time is functioning as an illusion, what could we really say is real or not? What could we really say these things are? I don't know. That's all I could tell you is I don't know. But it is like one of the craziest experiences I had. Like I said, I had ones in Chino that I already told you about in the other video. I used to hear moaning and whispers and weird noises at San Quentin when I was there for a minute waiting to go to Chino. I've seen weird shit everywhere that I've been. And you have to understand that prison is a violent, nasty, dangerous place where many, many people have died. And if Grady County Detention Center was built in 1934, I'm sure it's had its share of death as well. So anywhere where there's a lot of death, where there's a lot of energy being released from the physical body itself, who knows where that energy ends up or if it goes anywhere, if it just stays lingering around forever because it's something that's trapped. It's like an anomaly that occurs within the fabric of time and dimension itself, and it's just stuck somewhere in the middle and it can't get out. Maybe it has something to do with magnetics, magnetism. It has something to do with electromagnetism or something that just shifts in just the right way that traps these things in and they can't go anywhere. There's food for thought, man. But there you go. There's a ghost story experience that I've had that I was waiting to share at some point in time, but now I'm sharing it with you. So go ahead and call me a psycho. But this shit really happened. I'm looking you dead in the eyes and telling you that shit really happened that way, and that's what really kind of like opened my mind up to a lot of different spiritual things. No, I'm not possessed by a demon, so don't even go there. I don't even believe in that kind of shit. Prison Break Raw, uncut, uncensored, no holds barred, non-sugarcoat, non-politically correct, all up in your face, slapping you with that dick of reality. And I'm out. Ooh.